But yeah, to almost skip your initial question of like, is it distinct? Um, so far, pretty much most of the data set is not really, no. Um, Most of the data, spoiler alert, kind of shows that all we're actually really doing with these protocols is just tricking people into eating less. So it's just a better way that we're just selling people to eat less. Now it is
Wait,
interesting
wait,
that
wait, wait, wait,
yeah,
wait. Do you mean to say, you meaning calories in versus calories out?
unfortunately, I think the laws of thermodynamics still kind of play a role.
Ah, shit. God damn. We
We
thought we found
haven't.
a biohack.
I was like,
Dang.
we haven't found a
Damn,
way
I
to
thought we were going to
truly hack it
optimize our
yet.
way around the laws of thermodynamics and shit.
I mean, my career would be a lot more exciting if I could say that it was.
You'd have a Nobel Prize, bro.
Exactly. We could just solve
Yeah.
all obesity. We'd no longer have any kind of metabolic diseases, and all I'd have to say is just skip breakfast. Like,
You know what's
I've
crazy? You know what's crazy? And well, not to like
no, you're
go
good.
off on a tangent, but you know what's crazy is I'm a little bit I'm a little bit older than you. I'm older than you for sure. But when you probably remember, right? When we were coming up, it was like you have to eat every couple hours. It's
Yeah.
small meals here and there, graze throughout the day. Breakfast is the
Mhm.
most important thing. Like smaller meals throughout the day, frequent eating, meal frequency was like the best for body composition and like metabolism and health. And now it's like completely 180, where it's restricting meals and restricting calories and eating fewer meals throughout the day.
I think I grew
Yeah.
up with that mindset too. Like I was always being told like, oh, you gotta have every single meal to be healthy. You gotta snack throughout the day.
Was that your grandma telling you that, or was that the gym bro?
Not the gym, bro. I didn't actually start going to the gym until like
Oh.
later, but like health classes would tell me you gotta eat every couple of hours if you want. You gotta stay fed.
Stokes your metabolism.
Right.
Yeah, yeah.
Right.
But yeah, it's that's what one thing I like to talk to students about is that everything just goes in cycles. Like
Right. Yeah.
it's the same. I mean, even with as long as I've been in this, and I've only been in this since like 2005, 2006 is really when I kind of started working out. And um even within just that time span, I've seen intermittent fasting kind of come and go like two or three times. I've seen keto come and go like a couple
Yeah.
times. And that's only within like a 20-year span. And so if even if you um and if you go back longer, you can find even longer cycles of it. So it's like there's nothing really new. So far, I haven't seen any other study come out that has, when you dive into it, that hasn't been able to kind of disprove that. Because anytime I've seen differences inside, because there's been other like training studies that have come out since then, but pretty much every single time it's the intermittent fasting group. It's basically what they just tell them to eat ad libitum. So they say like, okay, go out and eat however you'd like. All we're gonna say is just only eat between noon and 8 p.m. Outside of that, we're not gonna tell you any type of dietary advice. And then either the caloric restriction group or the control group, whatever, they directly say like, we want you to eat X, Y, and Z. And in those instances when they say like, oh, look, the intermittent fasting group lost more weight or something like that, and you go look at the calorie data, it's because the intermittent fasting group ate less calories. And so again, shocker, eat less calories, lose more weight. Like it's
Yeah, and that answers. I mean, that answers a specific question, but like an actual meaningful, useful question. But it's a different question, right? If
mhm.
you're talking about body composition changes, improvement in body fat percentage or weight loss or body fat loss, and intermittent fasting, time restricted feeding, or whatever, leads to that because the practice of it leads to less calories consumed throughout the day. Like that shows from like a practical perspective, like that is a plausible strategy for that goal, right?
Exactly.
But that's very, very different. And this is what you were getting to, especially with your study, is that's very different than if you were to actually make these diets equal in terms of calories and also protein. That's super important, right? But is there, and again, going back to my question earlier on, is like, there's no distinct difference between how you time those meals and those nutrients and those calories. It comes down to the consumption of the right amount of calories and nutrients and proteins and things like that. So, you know, for the studies that allowed those people to consume ad libitum, like practically, that's great data, right? Hey, because I have, you know, clients that have used intermittent fasting before, and you know, like those studies would suggest, it just helps them eat less calories at the end of the day, and they're able to lose weight, improve their body composition, and that's great. But that's a different question than is time restricted feeding or intermittent fasting, if everything is matched and controlled for, any different or distinct than just consuming the same amount of nutrients, calories, and protein just throughout the day.
Yeah, and I actually think it's despite, you know, I always get crap for this, but I actually think it's a great thing that we didn't find a difference, because it just gives us more options to use with clients.
Right.
Because
yeah, exactly.
If we did really find that intermittent fasting was this magical and then everything, then it comes down to, okay, everyone has to intermittent fast, and you're going to work with people that don't like intermittent fasting, and you're going to work with some people that do like intermittent fasting. And so since this shows that there was no difference, then that says, okay, cool, for the people that don't like intermittent fasting, I can use a myriad of other techniques for them and get the same results. And the people that do like intermittent fasting, I can use that with them and get similar results. And so I'm not worried about having to worry about my client, my patient, whomever is missing out on something because they're not doing some protocol that they hate. This just shows us, like, yeah, if you got somebody who, you know, wants to maybe lose a little bit of weight, doesn't really like counting calories or tracking a bunch of stuff or something like that, using some of these protocols can help them, like, inadvertently cut some calories without thinking about it, to kind of move in that direction. And then, but if you got somebody that, you know, they try it for a while, they hate it, they just much rather, you know, track their food and all that kind of stuff throughout the day, and that works better for them, awesome. You do you, man, you do that. So it's the old thing, going back to actually one of the first presentations I saw you give, it's like, you can, but should you?
Yeah. And is it necessary?
Is it necessary? And I think the more times we can, despite how unsexy it is, because it's much sexier to come in and say, like, these things do all these magic things. But despite how unsexy it is, the more times we can say, like, you don't have to, like, the better for working with more people in long-term compliance, because then we're making it easier for people to be able to follow things. And that's why, even though, like, you know, I've done a lot of work with intermittent fasting, I still like investigating it. And I think there's still a ton of utility in using it. And one of the roads that I'd like to kind of go down now is, like, ways that we could potentially manipulate it to help increase adherence. Because how many times do you work with people, again, like, they just can't stick to one thing or another to get long-term weight outcomes. And so and unfortunately, you know, obesity is a big issue in this country. We need as many tools in the tool belt as possible.